You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 114, Deep Purple BBC Sessions 1968. And coming to you from the even more technologically upgraded suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from outside Providence, I'm your co-host. I'm going to get it out.
Are you?
No, I don't want to start it again. John Cantaloupe St. Pierre.
Cantaloupe St. Pierre?
Matola.
What is Cantaloupe St. Pierre? We're recording a little late, guys, in case you haven't picked up on that.
Oh my God. Oh, it's still funny a day later.
What is Cantaloupe St. Pierre? Of course. I know. Now I know what you're talking.
Wait a minute. You honestly didn't remember from like
I didn't
5
remember
minutes
from like 5 minutes ago, yeah. And from our last episode. Apparently I'm completely Cantaloupe.
All right. So if you didn't use this as a outtake, there's a Simpsons episode, season 18, where there's a jazz festival and Krusty the Clown is rattling off all the names of the talent.
Yeah, we talked about this in the last episode, didn't we?
Of the jazz musicians.
Or did we talk about it after the last?
No, we talked about it afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And so he's just all these ridiculous names, and the last one was Cantaloupe St. Pierre. I don't know why it's so funny.
And I had already forgot after we just listened to it 5 minutes ago. There you go.
And I played it from like before we started recording. So, but anyways, yeah, that's a nickname this week.
Great. It'd be great if this is somebody's first episode. You always think about every episode, is this somebody's first exposure to the show, to just hear a uncontrollable breakdown within the first 11 seconds of the show. That's fantastic.
Well, if you're new, welcome.
Yeah, if you're new, welcome. And you know what? If you're new and you're like, hey, you know what? I've got an extra $1 to $20 in my pocket every month that I just don't know what to do with. Hey, why not support this show and listen to uproarious, undeclared laughter for the first minute? A few ways you can support the show. Obviously, that's one of them. Patreon is a place that most people choose to support the show, but you can also use PayPal if you'd like to continue to keep this bandwagon a-rolling as we get 114 episodes deep into exploring the catalog and various offshoots of Deep Purple. And hey, we haven't even gotten to House of Blue Light yet. How about that? So, yeah, that's one way you can support the show. If you're getting value out of the show, if we're making you laugh on your commute home and or commute to work or wherever it is, giving you some information or just some good entertainment, or making you curse at your car stereo about how we're getting something wrong, and that gives you it makes you feel superior to our entry level knowledge on the band, then you can support us that way. You can also leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Buy merch at our Etsy store. We got t-shirts and mugs still available. So there's a few ways you can support the show. And speaking of supporting the show, hey-o! We have a new patron coming in at the $6.66 tier. Finally filling that tier. We have Steve Coldwell. And you know what? We sat down to record and I literally opened my email and just moments earlier got that notification. So usually I reach out to the patron thank them, ask for information, but we were in the midst of recording, so I haven't gotten to do any of that yet. But I will get to say this: thank you so much, Steve, for your support. And of course, if you have any entry, sometimes people have a little entry rap they want to give us, or how they discovered the show, or whatever. Maybe we'll have that for you in the next episode. But thank you so much, Steve Coldwell. We appreciate your support. And finally, the $6.60 tier, $6.66 tier is filled, as well as the $6.65 tier. So maybe my constant badgering about how that's been empty for a couple months now, or however long it's been. Somebody was like, I'm tired of hearing Nate say it's empty. I'm just going to donate and shut him up. And that works too. If I just can annoy you in any way to support the show, we do have, thanks to the generous support of our patrons, a new little video unit over here. It's a computer that's about this big. Yeah, it's about that big. Tiny little thing. And but it's a power horse. I it's an inexpensive solution. Takes the video load off of the audio computer here, and definitely already noticed some big changes last week and this week. I'm just still moving monitors around, and I've got monitor switches so I can switch things. So I'm still trying to figure all that out and make sure it works correctly, and making little tweaks every week. But yeah, the big thank you to our patrons for allowing us to do that. And I got this handy dandy wireless keyboard to control it. Look at that. Woohoo! That's what $24 worth of Patreon money gets. This shiny silver keyboard trackpad combo. Very nice. Appreciate all. Can't do that with a computer. I'll rip the wires out of the wall. So thank you to everybody. If you're watching on YouTube, that's a little bonus. You get to see that cool keyboard. But speaking of thanking our patrons, well, we've got to thank our executive level patrons as well. Coming in at the $20 Shades of Deep Pockets tier, we have Ryan M. At the $15 Highball Shooter tier, Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg. At the Turn It Up to $11 tier, Frank Teelgard Mortensen, Clay Wambacher, and Mikkel Steen. And at the $10 Someone Came tier, Steve Seaborg of NameOnAnything.com and AllTheWorldSAstage.net, Jeff Bryce, Gerald Kelly via PayPal, Victor Campos, and Richard Fusey. Thank you to all of you for your wonderful support of the show. And speaking of which, I just got another email. It's like this is like email city here today. So I got this other email here from Jeff Bryce, which I'm actually just opening now because he sent me a text message actually a little earlier. And so I've got to open this up and show you, because we were talking about in one of our previous episodes, a couple episodes back, we talked about what do you call it, the green bullfrog, and we talked about the whole natural magic thing, and we didn't quite know why. Hey, why is this have natural magic involved? It doesn't make any sense. But of course, Jeff Bryce had an answer. So let me just share this with you real quick. He of course has the green bullfrog that you see right there. The green bullfrog record, the one with the quote on it that erroneously claims Roger Glover played on it. Then there's a little bit of a little blurb about how green bullfrog is kind of one of these lost treasures and everything. And I actually haven't had a chance.
I don't see anything.
Oh, you don't see anything?
No.
Oh, did I not? Oh, maybe I didn't share. I thought I shared it with you. Oh, maybe I didn't. Screen sharing has stopped as the shared window is closed. All right. Well, here we go. We're maybe let me try that again. Oh, yeah, I think I shared the audio screen with you, which isn't going to work. So let's try that again. So I'll share this screen with you. There it is. You see it now?
There we go.
All right. So there's the green bullfrog. There's just a little bit, some blurbs in there, which I haven't actually read through yet. So it says Green Bullfrog is a celebration of their club and studio days. A chance for the boys to crank up their guitars and bend a few strings together one more time. One day recording, no second chances, no overdubbing or multi-tracking, no camouflage, natural magic. So talks right there about natural magic. I'm still not quite sure why they're calling it that, but you'll see here on the side of the album says Green Bullfrog, natural magic. So perhaps that's where it came from. I'm not sure why Roger Glover quite got involved in that, but maybe if I read this entire thing, I'd have more information. But it did just come through. But some interesting stuff. That explains the kind of mystery as to why this was called Natural Magic and Discogs. So thank you, Jeff Bryce, for your constant tutelage. We appreciate it. All right. So this week we got something a little different, and that is talking about. So this right now, as you're listening to this, as it's put out, is roughly around the exact 53rd anniversary of the first known live recordings of Deep Purple playing Mark One. They had just wrapped up about a month previously their first album, but they'd played a few shows, but they hadn't really had any recorded that I'm aware of before this, which is something on the BBC, which they recorded. So um, the history behind this is that and there's great liner notes on this. It's the CD is called BBC Sessions, and it's got a bunch of BBC sessions kind of scanning the whole Mark 1 and Mark 2. It goes from 1968 to 1970, but this comes from Tony Edwards in 1980. Deep Purple obviously wasn't reunited yet, and they were still kind of trying to scrap together any sort of compilations and things that they possibly could to uh, whatever, get some more money back on their investment. They came out with a lot of different compilations. So Tony Edwards with EMI put together a Deep Purple archive called New, Live, and Rare. On some of the recordings of the BBC sessions were licensed to be used, but it would be 31 years until they saw a release. So after the after the band split up, a lot of best of collections start popping up, and the official releases, there was a tons of bootlegs, and some of these BBC things started leaking out as bootlegs, and we've talked about that in the past, where there'll be this common bootleg. So Deep Purple tries to release an official version to counteract the bootlegs. We even talked about, what was it, and Made in Japan was kind of an answer to that. They all these live shows are circulating out there of varied quality. Why not put out a top quality live show that we recorded and we controlled the quality of, to show what we're capable of, and obviously becomes one of the biggest and most well-regarded live albums of all time. So it obviously worked. This researcher named Ken Garner discovered that the engineers had began recording some live recordings at the same time the BBC was recording their copies. A lot of the BBC stuff ends up, which is kind of crazy about that time period. If you read anything about TV, film, um, uh, radio, they just record. They're like, oh, we aired that, let's just record over it. Like the show Doctor Who, like there's entire seasons that are lost because they're just like, oh, we got to use those tapes again. Tapes are expensive. So there's like episodes that don't exist anymore
Oh
that you can't get,
my God.
which is insane. I'm by no means a Doctor Who scholar, but I've seen a few seasons that of the reboot that I kind of enjoyed. But I'm like, even as somebody who's not like a huge fan of the show, I'm just like, it's absolutely infuriating to think of
Oh
something like,
yeah.
as a completist myself. And nowadays, storage is basically, not only is it so much cheaper, but it's almost limitless, and it doesn't take up space. You'd probably talk about huge warehouses full of tape and everything, and how do you catalog all that. So I kind of get it, but it's painful to hear about that. So some of these discs that they were doing, they gave out to local stations, and they had like a thing where they had to return it after a year, or they'd have to be destroyed, all these kind of like licensing agreements and such. So in 2010, they even said, like, some fans would, just like we would do as kids, just put up a microphone up to the speaker and record, oh, Deep Purple is going to be on the BBC, and they just recorded on their home recording device, which I'm sure didn't sound that great, but we did the same. I used to do the same thing. I'd hold up my my boom box and record
Hmm.
off of MTV or something, to hear
Hmm.
so
Oh
I hear
yeah.
a song that I liked. Or if you were lucky, you could just record straight off the radio, and the quality was actually better. So in 2010, they discovered 2 Deep Purple sessions. There were some gaps and some things that are missing, but they tried to put, and Simon Robinson is the absolute savior of the Deep Purple world, and the amount of things that he's been able to catalog and properly release with all the notes and the history behind everything. And if you buy this collection, he's got some great liner notes in there to kind of talk about this. So it says Deep Purple recorded 37 songs during these sessions. 9 are lost or in such poor quality that they basically aren't listenable. So what we're going to look at now starts with 4 tracks recorded by Mark I. The first 3 were recorded on June 18th, 1968. So only about a month after they completed their album, and they had not released it yet. So they wouldn't have released it until July. So that's when Shades of Deep Purple was released. And here we go. So that takes us to the tracks. The first track is, you won't be surprised to hear, is Hush. This was recorded, this is part of session 1, recorded June 18th. It aired on June 30th, 1968. The session was discovered in 2010 and had been presumed lost up until it turned up. And Hush had already been chosen as a single, which is why they opened with it. And the session also contained the tracks, which we'll listen to next, which are One Rainy Day and Help. So what is going on with this? Okay. All right. So here we go. We're going to check out one of the earliest known, if not the earliest known, live recording of Hush. You hear that okay?
Yeah. Sound quality is pretty decent, actually. I mean,
not bad considering how old it is.
Lost.
Kind of probably typical of the bands of the day, but I mean, it sounds like they're almost like they're playing the single. You know, like that you can tell Ritchie's little guitar fills are a little different.
Yeah.
But for the most part, this is like bands back then that would have been big would have had to put on such a strong performance that's almost indistinguishable from the recording. Those little background vocals are a little different.
Yeah, it sounds like an outtake or an alternate version from the album.
This would have been back when John Lord and Nick Simper were doing backups, I think. I like how in the
kind of like this version better, like Rod's energy.
Yeah, and I think being in the studio could make
maybe it's because
stiff sometimes.
Yeah, I mean we've also heard the other version so many times that this sounds fresh.
Yeah, the version I always think of the version they played at the Playboy After Dark, where Ritchie does like a little guitar fill and he kind of flubs it and he just kind of looks over at Ian Paice. He's like, eh. He gives this little shrug, like, oh, what are you gonna do? I like that picture of Mark. I wish there was a better quality picture of that picture of Mark I on the cover here. He's got Ritchie up front and Ian Paice. You can't even tell if Ian Paice is in front of him or behind him, but. You get the bouffants in full force, and then John Lord's like almost lost in the back, like his head's partially cut off.
You know what's not cut off though is like the infamous Rod's yellow hot pants.
Yeah, he's packing some heat there.
Yeah, Rod knew how to dress in those tight, colorful trousers back in the day.
Yeah, well, it's like any good front man. reminds me of that bad news thing where they're talking about what kinds of vegetables they put in their pants to. I like broccoli. It's got a better shape.
Broccoli.
Nick Simper looks like he's trying to be a badass in that photo.
Yeah. Not a badass.
He's really wringing that neck.
Oh. I'm just all set with like Mark One Ritchie leads. Like they're just so laughable. I'm sorry.
So there you go. That was that was that was Hush. So yeah, the Mark One leads are kind of yeah they're funny to
Yeah,
listen
Ritchie's.
to.
Yeah, his early leads are just amusing. It's like, it's like, all right, you need to like, it's like, and he just learned how to bend a note, and he's
Well,
like, he can't
it's funny
control it.
because it didn't seem like his solos didn't seem like that. It was just when he threw those little fills in, and I don't know if some of it had to do with that guitar. Like he wasn't quite able to hit the bends. I mean, depending on what the string that's on his Gibson, the ES 335, where he's kind of. I mean, it's a big guitar. It's like a hollow bodied or a partial hollowed. I'm not sure, but I'm sure it was a little harder to manage that than maybe hitting those bends on a Strat.
Well, all I know is that a couple of years time, and he really whipped it into shape
Not
because
even a couple. I mean, just even like a year later. Like I think it was really just on
hmm,
Shades and Taliesin where he was um he was kind of almost I don't want to say struggling, but like wasn't hitting those bends quite the same way.
goofy,
Yeah, it's a weird, and it
goofy.
sounded like he's going. Wah, 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 wah. It sounded like when Eddie Van Halen would make this guitar like. Wah, 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 wah. He'd do his make his guitar laugh and stuff. But I remember hearing
Yeah.
or reading in an interview. I must have been reading it, but I remember him saying at some point that he felt like the Gibson was like really easy to play and anybody could play it and sound good, but the Fender was more of a challenge. I can't remember where I read it though,
Hmm.
um, but based on that, I mean, it seems to me like that would be a harder one to really hit bends on. But hey, who knows?
I think so.
Um,
I think so because I mean I've always played like like Strat style guitars, Fender Ibanez, um, you know, and I don't like Gibsons, Les Pauls. Like
yeah,
I thought I would love them, but sat down with one. I just remember the first time I sat down with one, I'm like, nope,
I
I just didn't
played
like
a
it.
Les Paul on one of the
Didn't feel
recordings
right.
that we did up in Boston. Interestingly, it was Kirk Hammett's Les Paul. The guy that
Hmm.
had the studio that we were recording at was like had been a roadie for Metallica, and he had a Les Paul that Kirk Hammett had given him, which you don't really think of Kirk Hammett as much of a Les
Hmm.
Paul guy. Maybe that's why he gave it to him. I don't know.
No.
Um, but I think I've seen a couple of photos of him with Les Paul, but he's usually using whatever, like an Ibanez or Jackson or something. But yeah, so I
Hmm.
played it on our recording. So I'm playing Kirk Hammett's Gibson. But yeah, that's the only time I ever played really a Gibson at any um with any amount of time, and generally kind of did it because that was one of the only two guitar bands. It was only one of the only was the only band I've ever been in where I played guitar. But we were a two guitar
Hmm.
band, and I used to play a Telecaster, and the other guitar player would play a Strat, and but to get like a different sound, the two I guess I don't know what you want to say, like the EQ or the sound quality. If you're both playing Strats, is kind of they kind of get lost in each other, whereas like the Gibson and the Strat sound
Hmm.
a little different, so they kind of work a little bit better. At least that's what he told me. I don't know, he's the expert. But yeah, so I ended up playing a Les Paul for that entire recording, but I didn't do any leads um because we never really finished the recording, to be honest. But I did like a lot of
Hmm.
rhythm stuff, and I enjoyed playing it, but I've seemed to remember it feeling a little more uncomfortable, maybe just because I was used to Fender guitars. But anyway,
Hmm.
um, I'm by no means an expert, but that was Hush on BBC Top Gear, June 18th, 1968. And then later on in that same show, they would go into a track that, maybe not one of their biggest known tracks from the Mark I era, but that is One More Rainy Day. I wonder how often this would have been played in the set back then. I think it was the B-side to Hush, wasn't it?
I don't know offhand.
This one always makes me think it's like he's singing about puberty or something. Changes, visible changes. Really good bass tone on this one. This is the interesting one because this was written by John Lord and Rod Evans, which is an unusual writing combo.
I mean, this one also just sounds like the album, minus a few small changes.
It's perfect.
Visible changes.
Audible changes.
Audible changes.
I was kind of like that. Ba 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 ba. It's very 60s.
Very Partridge Family.
But well done, yes.
Which is, qualify. It's not a bad thing. I always thought the Partridge Family was kind of catchy.
Oh yeah. You'd be a fool to deny that.
I would.
And John Lord didn't get a ton of writing credits, on the, I should say, like, not a ton of like solo writing credits, but for him to just write this with Rod Evans is kind of interesting. It's the this time around of Mark I, so they kind of fade that one out. Because this was on the radio, so they probably had to get in and out real quick. But yeah, I mean, I think it just shows you here they are. This band's only been together for a matter of months, and they're already banging out these live songs just as well as they did on the album.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, probably shows you how live the actual album recording was, because they sound virtually the same.
Right. That's really good stuff.
And if you said it was like, what, only a month after they were done recording, they're probably still like, it's all really fresh in their minds, how to play everything. These are all the new songs.
Yeah. And they, like you said, it's probably just exactly what they did in the studio, just set up everything and played the songs. But hey, we're at the halfway mark through these songs, so we'll take a break to thank our core level patrons. Coming in at the $6.66 tier, we have none other than our newest patron, Steve Coldwell, making it evil once again. We appreciate that, Steve. Thank you so much for your support of the Deep Purple podcast. I'm typing you in right here in the show notes. At the $6.65 almost evil tier, Kenny Wymore, not quite evil. What is the Dr. Evil thing? He's like, not evil enough. What is it? I don't remember what he says.
It's been a while since I've seen that.
It's great when the pandemic when the pandemic first started, we were all like we were just like full of anxiety, and I like come home from work every night and like immediately jump in the shower and shower up, and we're like worried about like everything that was going on. And it was like crazy. So I just one night I was like, I'm just putting on. We're gonna just watch Austin Powers tonight to just be ridiculous and not think about this. It was like the best move I made. So like for 3 nights in a row, we watched each of the 3 movies, and just laughed like idiots watching those. I highly recommend.
Sounds fantastic.
It was great.
Sounds
It's
fantastic. We were like, yeah, there were some movies like that which just, they they're the palate cleanser of life.
Yep. I you know what I watched the other night was Beverly Hills Ninja.
God, I haven't seen that one in forever.
I don't think I'd ever seen it all the way through. I think I'd just seen bits and pieces. It's just like sometimes you just need a movie like that. Like if you're feeling whatever, just a movie like that to just laugh. Just a stupid movie. It's fantastic. It
Just
was
something
great.
ridiculous, yeah, where you can, yeah.
Yeah, something where you know you're not gonna have to think too hard, but you're gonna laugh. Anyway, at the $5.99 nice price tier, we have Fielding Fowler and Dr. Jill Brees. At the $5 moneylender tier, we have Greg Sealby, John Convery, Arthur Smith, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Jesper Alman, Alexi the Perfect Stranger Slepikoff, James North, Mark Hodgetts, Kev Roberts, Will Porter, and Zwapper, the Electric Alchemist. Whew, the $5 tier is just that's our rock right there. All of those. I think I can almost get all those names without looking at the list. It's just got a good rhythm to it. Like I can't say German Heindel without saying Adrian Hernandez after. It comes so naturally.
It's
At
the
the
flow,
at the
yeah.
$3 Nobody's Perfect tier, Peter Gardeau, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Anton Glaving, Andrew Meyer, Duncan Leask, and Stuart McCord. Thank you so much to all of you. And you know what? I'm gonna do a little bit here to think about our patrons. I'm pulling up my patron history so I can add Steve Coldwell to it. This segment I'm going to call the better know a patron segment. And we just said Peter Gardeau. I think we talked about Clay Wambacher and Steve Seaborg as our number 1 and 2 patron. I'd be remiss if I did not mention our third ever patron, the master of New England, the the guru of all 80s retail establishments, the master of the Dymo labeler, Mr. Peter Gardeau, patron number 3, coming in just a couple months before he met up with you to go see Deep Purple in concert. Thank you, Peter Gardeau.
Yeah.
Better know a patron. We should do that. Have Peter Gardeau write us a little essay, or send us some pictures of some Caldor receipts or something from 1986. Thank you to all your wonderful patrons. We couldn't do the show without you. All right. Our next song here that they performed at this concert was the famous cover of their Beatles song Help, which the Beatles themselves were quite big fans of. So here we go. Here's them playing Help, BBC Top Gear, June 18th, 1968. This is kind of a longer song too. I don't know if they're going to be, if the radio is going to let them play the whole thing. If they'll have to shorten it up. And if anybody knows any earlier recordings before this, let me know. I believe we're hearing the earliest aired recordings of Deep Purple. They recorded things before this, but no one would have heard it until about a month later.
Say Ritchie is really prominent in this version.
This must be recorded in mono, right? I don't think they would have been doing stereo then, right? Listen,
I would guess mono.
it's gotta be. Most people probably just had a mono stereo or whatever.
I really like this.
Yeah, you were a pretty big fan of the album version too, as I remember.
I just think it's really creative thing to do is to take a song like Help, which even I know is really, the original is really upbeat, and turn it into this. You know, a ballad basically.
Right. And I think, like I mentioned way back when, John Lennon wanted to do the song like this, but the record label was not having it. It was too depressing. Like, it's gotta be upbeat. It's gotta be something the kids gonna buy. We gotta sell these singles.
Yeah, but for Deep Purple, they're like, screw it.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
It's funny that, you know, the John Lennon has to sing this really upbeat song about being so alone, and his cry for help is all upbeat and he's bebopping along, and Deep Purple's like, let's reimagine it and we'll make it really slow paced.
And that's probably why he liked it, Lennon.
Great organ work there. Here comes Ritchie with your bends.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I feel like there's like, it's not musical.
I feel like he's over the top on with the bends on this, more so than you hear it. I think Taliesin was the peak of him doing that, but here, as the whole soul is like,
yeah, no, his early leads were just not very musical or melodic, or, you know, they were just kind of like, it was just him just strangling the shit out of his guitar, you know? Like, why you little.
Well, he was even those early days. He mellowed a bit over the course of the next few years, because he'd do the things where he just took the guitar and he put the pick in his mouth and just would like curly slap the guitar, you know, and, you know, rub it on his ass and step on it with his toes and things like that. I mean, he would still do that even later on, but
curly slap.
You know what I'm talking about, right? He puts the guitar,
yeah.
He puts the guitar body on his legs in front of him, and then he just goes like this to the fretboard.
Yeah, you go, why you, and then like the whammy bar comes up and like,
why I oughta, you oughta what? I gotta be a little more careful. So that was Help. Pretty faithful to the album. It sounded like those like dun dun dun, like that part sounded a little different to me. I haven't listened to Shades of Deep Purple probably since we did the episode, but
same.
I don't remember it being quite as bum bum bum, but I could just be completely off on that. Pretty good. That was so that concludes the 3 tracks that they would have played in that session, in that June session for BBC Top Gear. And that was aired, like I said, on June 30th. But interestingly, they recorded a week later. They recorded the next song we're going to listen to, which is "And the Address," for the BBC Dave Simmons show. That was recorded on June 25th, 1968. But it was that was aired July 1st, and they played 1 track per session from July of this from July 1st through July 4th. It was re-aired. So this second session that they did, there was another 4 tracks, I believe. The other 3 were Oh no, I'm sorry, four more. Hush, One More Rainy Day Again, Kentucky Woman, and It's All Over. But this is the only one that survives, the only remnant of that session.
Mm.
And no paperwork was found for this. There's some speculation that this was recorded, that this recording may not have actually made the air. This one might have been scrapped, but yet it is. Maybe that's why it survives. It's because they got rid of all the ones that are on the air, and this one just kind of stuck around for some reason. But here we go. The first Deep Purple song that most people would hear on that first album. I guess Hush would probably be the first one. First one you'd hear on the album, of course, and that address. And here we go. Wow, it's like kind of piercing.
Yeah, the quality on this recording isn't as good.
Well, it's a little different. This is more the kind of classic Ritchie. Fewer of those big bends. You can kind of hear some warbling in the tape there.
Yeah.
I'm actually still surprised how good the quality on the bass sounds. Maybe this was like some sort of like warm up or something, or they did a sound check for this song and just happened to record it as well. Hard to know what happened in the studio.
And that's the sign-off sound from Deep Purple.
Oh, really? They don't give you much time to get
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah, transitions were very
Moving right along.
abrupt.
You've heard enough of that.
Next.
But there you go. This is the earliest first 4 live recordings that we are aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Please write in and tell us how we're wrong, or tell us how you have a copy of the show they did in Denmark on their first concert. You were back there. People message me all the time, like as if I'm the expert on any of this, which I'm far from. Like do you know if there's a recording of the whatever first Deep Purple show? I'm like, probably not. But as we learned a few months back, when they uncovered that Randy California show from Quebec, anything is possible. I don't think anybody really saw that one coming, and then all of a sudden, boom, some guy releases it. People most think it's a hoax or a joke, and then lo and behold, we've got this show that's almost 50 years old getting released to everybody, and we're able to actually sample it. So, who knows? If you recorded that show in Denmark, please let us know. Let us break the story. It'd be great for our numbers. We'd have an extra 10 listeners that week, I think, if we played that. People are clamoring for that, for the Rod Evans stuff. We would be. But speaking of Rod Evans, we have to thank our foundation level patrons. Coming in at the $1 made up names here: L's Murders, Spacey Noodles, The Untethered Leaky Mausoleum, Michael Vader, Stephen Somerville, The Concerto 1999 Fanatic, Raf Calf, Spike the Rock Cat, JJ Stenard, and of course, Hank the Tank. Thank you to all of you for your undying support of the Deep Purple podcast. If you want more information about the early BBC sessions, check out grab the CD, check out the liner notes by Simon Robinson. Some really great stuff in there. And yeah, I think we got some good feedback the other day. We got to look at what's, we get a shorter episode like this. We got to talk about what's new in the Deep Dive Podcast Network. So,
Yeah.
what's new this week? What do we got? What's our latest? Let's see here. We've got
You tell me.
Hawk Binge released a new episode, Hall of the Mountain Grill. So check that one out. That one came out May 29th. So as we record this, that's fairly recent, just a few days ago. In the Lap of the Pods, their most recent one is still the Pink Floyd 1971 to 1977, which was a great episode. Made in A to Z, their most recent one is from May 27th. Drifter and the Duelists. So check that one out. We've got, need a better way to do this than just going through my podcast feeder. Oh my God, today, just today, North by South released a new episode, Tearing Down the Biz. So yeah, this one was their theme for this month's episode was music, songs by bands that are like basically railing against the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be interested to see what their picks are. Oh, that's going to be a good one. I got my morning commute soundtrack picked out right there. Sabbath Bloody podcast is still the Sabbath Seance. My God, so many shows in our network here. Uriah Heep, The Dance. That episode came out today. The song The Dance, as he's rounding out the John Lawton era. Or is that he might be out of the John Lawton era now? I'm not sure. I have 2 episodes to catch up on with that. And then T-Bone's Prime Cuts. Still, you got to check out that awesome interview with John Oates. So a thank you to all of you wonderful folks in the Deep Dive Podcast Network. That's all I got. We had a late night recording session, unplanned. We were supposed to record tomorrow morning, but at the last minute decided to throw this episode together today to get some episodes banked up for our inevitable summer break. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add, Cantaloupe St. Pierre?
No.
All right.
I rarely have anything to add.
Well, once again, we have promised and delivered on a shorter episode, but you know what, guys? I got some bad news for you. Next week, you'll get no such deal. Next week is going to be probably a pretty long one, and one that I've been looking forward to for a long time.
I'm going to take my vitamins.
Well, hopefully we can record a little, or if we start that one, then at the time we started tonight, we're going to fall asleep.
Oh, I'm ready to fall asleep.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be unprecedentedly long, but it's going to be,
I know,
a full proper album review of a full proper album.
Right.
All right. I can't wait. It's all good. It's all good. We're here for it.
It's all good. Guess what it is. Drop it in the comments.
Yeah, if you guess what the album is, well, I don't want to make any promises. I'm like,
no, don't. You'll piss people off.
What could I promise that's going to be something we could actually deliver on? I'll give you a shout out, bragging rights. You can record a monologue for us to play on one of our episodes about how great you are. How about if you guess it right, the first person to guess it right, if anybody guesses it right, between the airing of this episode and that episode, which will be about a week. And by the time this airs, people are going to be responding to my tweets and be like, what are you talking? I will forget that I said any of this, but you'll get the bragging rights. You'll get, we'll talk it. We'll DM about something that we can do to celebrate your amazing, your intuitiveness to figure out what's coming up next. And well, no, I'm not going to hit up anybody for additional information on that. I was going to say, because usually I'll reach out to Jorg or Jeff or one of those guys for some details ahead of an episode. But I didn't reach out to anybody with this. This one's all from my independent research.
All
So there'll
you.
be nobody to nobody has any clues.
Even me.
Yeah, John can be in on it too. He can try to guess.
Well, actually, I already know what it's going to be.
Yeah,
but-
you do know this one. Sometimes you don't, but you do know this one.
Yeah, well, like tonight, I'm like, so what are we doing again?
Even though we literally talked about it yesterday.
Well, I mean, then again, I also talked about Cantaloupe Saint Pierre 5 minutes before I busted out laughing, and you're
Yeah.
like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "We just talked about it."
That's even worse. At least you had a day to forget it. I had 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's typical of me. Yeah, my short-term memory is terrible. My long-term memory is pretty good.
Hmm.
All right. Well, John St. Pierre, I'll talk to you next week.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also leave us a review in Apple Podcasts to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.